Coming up on UGTV, Board of Commission meeting of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas.
This time we'll call the meeting to order. The clerk, please call the roll.
Roll call. Burrows. Townsend. McKiernan.
Here.
Mugia.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Kane.
Here.
Markley.
Here.
Walters. Philbrook.
Here.
Bynum.
Here.
Alvey.
Here. This evening, our invocation is being given by our very own Commissioner Harold Johnson. Please stand, remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Consider those who recently have been part of a mass shooting, those that families that have lost their have been bereaved and lost their loved ones, and those whose families are hospitalized. Eternal Father, we come to you now in your great name. We thank you for this opportunity to govern. Our hearts are heavy because evil has reigned in our community. But God, we look to you, we look to the mountains, we look to the hills, which comes our help. And we know that all of our help comes from you. Help us, oh God, to lead and guide and make godly decisions that help all Wyandotte Countyans, regardless of which side of the county they live, regardless of their ethnic background, regardless of all the things that make us uniquely different. Help us to be mindful of all citizens so that we may, God, cause light to shine where there is darkness. We pray this in the name of Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Commissioner. Clerk, are there any revisions to tonight's agenda?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Under the mayor's agenda, item number 3 will be a proclamation.
Thank you. So at this time, I'd ask for Justice Walker to come forward and present an award.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. I'm honored to be here tonight to talk about my good friend Irvin Jackson. Irvin was recently presented the Willie M. Murray Award at the 2019 Midwest-Southwest Transit Conference. The Willie M. Murray Award is the highest honor bestowed upon public transit professionals annually by the Kansas Public Transit Association. The award recognizes outstanding and dedicated long-term service to public transit in the state of Kansas. Irvin began his career with KCK City in 1981, started as a driver, has worked his way up to Operations General Superintendent. He's an award-winning volunteer. He's volunteered for the KCK Huggers, the local chapter of Special Olympics, for over 20 years. He generously and unselfishly donates his time through volunteerism. In 2015, he was recognized by Ford Motor Company as an unsung hero in our community. The Freedom Award honors the outstanding achievements of ordinary people performing extraordinary work in their community. Irvin is dedicated, loyal, and dynamic. I frequently tell people that Irvin has forgotten more about public transit than most people will ever learn. So please join me in recognizing Willie M. Murray Award recipient, Irvin Jackson.
Thank you, sir. Next item, voting delegates, alternate for the Kansas Association of Counties Conference. The voting delegate is Commissioner Philbrook, and alternate delegate is Bridget Cobbins. Do any members of the commission have any questions or comment? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the delegates as submitted.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Roll call, Burrows,
Oh, sorry, yes.
McKiernan,
Aye.
Mugia,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Kane,
Aye.
Markley,
Aye.
Walters, Philbrook,
Yes.
Bynum.
Aye.
The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
And next, we have a proclamation for Rotary International. I'll come forward. Is there anyone from the Rotary here? Yes. Thank you, sir. Rotary International, founded on February 23, 1905 in Chicago, Illinois, United States of America, is the world's first and one of the largest nonprofit service organizations. And whereas there are over 1.2 million Rotary Club members comprised of professional and business leaders in over 35,000 clubs in 200 countries and geographic areas, including 2 Rotary clubs in Kansas City, Kansas, and 1 Rotary club in Bonner Springs, Kansas. And whereas the Rotary motto, service above self, inspires members to provide humanitarian service, encourage high ethical standards, and promote goodwill and peace in the world. And whereas Rotary in 1985 launched Polio Plus and helped to establish the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, which today includes the World Health Organization, U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, UNICEF, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to immunize the children of the world against polio. And whereas polio cases have dropped by 99.9% since 1988, and the world stands on the threshold of eradicating the disease. And whereas to date, Rotary has contributed more than $1.9 billion in countless volunteer hours to the protection of more than 2.5 billion children in 122 countries. And whereas Rotary is working to raise an additional $50 million per year, which would be further leveraged for maximum impact by an additional $100 million annually from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And whereas, in addition, Rotary has played a major role in decisions by donor governments to contribute more than $8 billion to the effort. And whereas, there are more than 100 members in the Kansas City, Kansas Village West and Bonner Springs Rotary Clubs, all located within Wyandotte County, sponsoring service projects to address such critical issues as poverty, health, hunger, illiteracy, and the environment in the city, county, and abroad. And we're actively working to support Rotary International's goal to eradicate polio worldwide. Now, therefore, I, David Albee, Mayor, CEO of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas, do hereby proclaim October 24th, 2019 as World Polio Day in Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, next we move to the consent agenda. Does any member of the commission, staff, or citizen in attendance tonight wish to set aside any item on tonight's consent agenda? You would need to step forward at this time, state your name and city of residency for the record, and ask that the item be set aside. If an item is not set aside, all items on the consent agenda will be voted on by one vote.
Move to approve all items as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion, and yes, ma'am. No, it's just a consent agenda. Okay, we have a roll call, please.
Roll call, Burrows. Aye. McKiernan,
Aye.
Mugia,
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
Okay. All right, now we have 3 items under the administrator's agenda. The first item is an overview of the snow operations. I'll turn this over to Administrator Bach.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to recognize our Director of Public Works, Jeff Fisher, who's going to make a presentation along with his staff this evening. Jeff?
Okay, thank you. Good evening. Since we are talking about winter weather and primarily the streets division's the lead on that, and Fleet as well. I wanted to recognize real quickly that Streets and Fleet they're undergoing a lot of transformation over this last year, and they're doing a great job with it. A lot of operational changes, restructuring, and they really embrace that, and all to provide great services to the community, so I'm really proud of them. I have a few from the Fleet's division tonight, just here to observe, and I'm excited to see them. Fleet is extremely crucial to an efficient winter weather operation. They are here 24/7 during those operations to hold that fleet together. So I'm really proud of them. Parks as well. Parks Department's a big part of our program. I do have a few people here that are going to help me present tonight. Jeff Miles is one of our newest members of the team. He's an operational superintendent in the street division. Brought him here from the private sector. He's already providing great value to the team. Vinny Bellacci, who was here last year, made part of the presentation. He's also an operations superintendent, been here for quite a while, does an excellent job. And then Dave Reno, the most of you know, is our community engagement officer. So just real quick, we've talked a little bit about these before. Wyandotte County, or KCK, has about 2,400 lane miles of roads to manage. That's a fairly large system, and we've, from winter weather operation, I think this crew does an excellent job at that. About 10,000 tons of material each year on average, and last year, as you know, we had about 12 storms and a lot of snow last year. It was problematic, but they did a great job. Of course, safety is our primary concern. We tried to be very responsive in winter weather and improve that safe travel for all motorists. As you know, we clear hot and secondary routes within 12 hours. That's our goal. Most often we hit that. Neighborhood routes usually within 24 to 48 hours. And I'm going to let Jeff Miles cover a couple of slides, and then Vinny, and I'll come back at the end.
Thank you, Jeff. Good evening. This is just my third month here at the Unified Government, so I'm excited to be here. It's my first opportunity, but in the last 3 months it hasn't snowed, if you've noticed. But it has given me an interesting perspective from being on the inside of seeing how the snow program is so important to the division. The first most important thing I've learned is the focus throughout the year is constantly improvement, from practices, from training, from equipment, and I'm going to touch on the fleet operations as well. So how do we do it? Most importantly, it's a team effort. Through several departments and divisions, the procedure starts months before the first flake of snow touches the ground. Fleet Services. Fleet Services plays a very important role in the overall success of the program. Chassis and snow equipment today are very complex and require highly trained technicians. As you can see in the photo above, that was just this week. The crew's preparing some of the equipment from welding to, you see that's actually a laptop hooked to the chassis, programming that chassis just to get prepared. That same truck that is plowing snow or spreading salt in harsh winter weather could be the same truck patching potholes or hauling off storm debris in the hot summer months. These trucks are being used in the most extreme conditions and need very aggressive maintenance approach from Fleet. Starting in July and August, it takes a joint effort, team approach in testing, adjustment, repairing of snow equipment. Street division operators are tasked with the installation of all the snow operation accessories and perform a thorough walk-around with the equipment testing. Defects are documented and communicated to the fleet team, and repairs are performed. Drivers then take the trucks out in the community and practice their pre-assigned routes. So if you see a plow truck in, say, August or fall, and wondering why it's out on the city streets, they're actually practicing to see if they can find any hidden obstacles or anything they might see that might be camouflaged with snow on top of it in the winter months. So the next thing is the most important thing, and I help participate with this with the team. We're pretty proud of this, but training is another vital component of the snow operations. A trained driver is safer to themselves and the public. They're more productive and cause less wear and tear to equipment which affects overall cost. So how do we train a new operator or help a veteran hone in their skills while fueling a competitive team environment? You practice, and that's what this video is about. We got the assistance of Mr. Reno that put this video together. This is our first annual rodeo. Sound? There is really cool music that goes with it, so. So as you can see, I'll go in since there's no music playing. You can mentioned, it was a really fun event, a good team building event. The street department street division had wanted to do this for a few years. I have served on the APWA Metro Rodeo Committee for 20 years prior in my previous career. So I was able to help them, and as a team, we got that put together, and I think it was pretty good success. Next year, we're actually going to team up with some other municipalities and actually compete against other operators at other cities as well, just to continue that improvement. So with that said, I'll hand it over to Vinny.
If we could, hold on, we're going to dial in Commissioner Townsend real quick before you start your section here.
Sorry, I can't find a meeting with that number. Try entering your... Welcome to the... If you're the meeting organizer, press star now. Please. After the tone, please record your name and then press pound. You are now joining the meeting as a leader. Unknown participant is now joining. Unknown participant is now joining.
Commissioner Townsend, you there?
Yes, I am, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, very good. All right, Vinny, continue.
All right. I'm going to start off by talking about route priorities and how we prioritize the snow routes. So we base it off traffic volume. So we have hot routes, and that would be roads like Leavenworth Road, State Avenue, Metropolitan, all the roads that have emergency facilities, police stations, fire stations. From there, we go to secondary routes. So those would be roads with schools and collector roads out in neighborhoods that would feed those hot routes. Then from there, the neighborhood routes, all the residential routes and cul-de-sacs. Storm intensities and how we treat each one. Minor storm, be a trace to an inch of snow. We'll have a few guys in, and we're just mainly going to be treating bridges on those. Moderate storm, 1 to 3 inches. We'll be bringing in more guys, and still probably hot routes and secondaries on those. Heavy storm, 3 to 6 inches. We're going to have help from Parks and Rec on those, and we're going to be plowing and treating hot routes, secondaries, and neighborhoods. It's the same treatment with the snow emergency. but we have, if you think back to November 25th, we declared a snow emergency. So on those, when we declare a snow emergency, you can't operate a vehicle if it's likely to get stuck. You have to have radial tires, chains, no parking on emergency routes. Total cost is directly impacted by the number of storm events, how much snow we have, and all that. So this graph trays the last 5 years total snow cost per storm. So the snow emergency we had on November 25th, that storm cost about $250,000. If you think back before that one, the very first storm we had on Veterans Day, that was about $50,000. On average, they're anywhere from $100,000 to $150,000 on average. Salt usage, that varies as well, obviously depending on how many storms you have and snow. And if you look back to 2017-18, that spike, we had drastically lower temperatures in that, and that obviously really impacts the salt usage. I'm going to turn this over to Dave to talk about community engagement.
So we spend quite a bit of time preparing for the winter season, and when it does start to snow and crews hit the streets and plows hit the pavement and we really get to work, we also start telling folks about what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we're doing it. Preparedness matters, and that increases safety. So if we can communicate with our community, we can keep them safe, we can keep our operations efficient. So we communicate in a variety of different ways, but the big one is social media. We use Facebook, we use Nextdoor. We let folks know we're working on hot routes, and at 3 a.m. we expect to be in neighborhoods. We reach out to school districts and we tell them what we're up to. This year in particular, we're excited to work with KCKPS because, as you know, our friend and former colleague Edwin Birch is now the Director of Communications over there. We've spoken to him. We're looking forward to running through this snow season so that his students, his families, they know what we're up to as well, so they can make great decisions about what they need to do with snow days. We also produce short videos. We run those on UGTV, and we reach out to our neighborhood groups. We do that primarily through livable neighborhoods. Send one big email, one big flyer, one big video to one person, and they help us distribute it to a whole bunch of people all over Kansas City, Kansas. We also reach out to our business associations and our chambers of commerce. We answer their questions because a lot of times they want to know what we're doing because they have customers on the way into town. So all of that is really not just work that we do, it's a partnership. We need a partnership with our community because we can't do this alone. And so in order to build that partnership, we spend a lot of time telling folks how they can help us do a better job, how they can help us increase efficiencies. And Jeff is going to run through kind of some of the common FAQs, some of the things people often ask us about. All this is available on the website. You go to wicokck.org/street/snow. You'll be able to find all of this, but we'll let Jeff run through a couple of the common ones that pop up.
Thank you. Obviously, the big one is don't drive if you don't have to, right? And stay away from the plows. I remember a video we took last year. We had two trucks running together and a car trying to get in between them. We'd really glad not to see that kind of stuff. Avoid parking on the street. As much as we can keep people off the street, it really helps efficiency and reduces risk. Your mailboxes, make sure they're secure because they will fall over and become a problem. Those happen quite a bit. If you're clearing your driveway and you're looking toward the street, and you need to shovel out in the street, shovel to the right. When the truck comes by, it's moving it to the right and not in the middle of your driveway. And, you know, we do get large piles of snow out there. Kids like to play in snow piles. We don't know they're in there. They form the little caves in there, and this is happening, unfortunately. And we'll come in again, and we'll push snow up into that same pile. Kids are in there, we don't know that. So we don't want kids playing in the snow pile. Some frequently asked questions, and I've heard these in these previous cities I served. Why aren't we spreading salt? Well, we may not have any in the truck. We're going back to the shop, pick up more salt, or we're driving to a route from the shop, and we're not dropping salt where somebody else has already. the plows aren't down. Well, again, we may be headed to our destination. The truck's already been through there. We're not gonna have the plow down where we've already been. Or if there's just dusting on the roads, and we're not gonna put the plows down for a dusting. Snow blocking my driveway. I heard this quite a bit. I just shoveled my driveway. You came back through, and now I have snow in my driveway again. There's not a lot we can do about that. Or we'd have to use a lot of resources and time to address that. And again, knocked my mailbox over. These trucks are not driving very fast in order to do an effective job. It doesn't take much snow to push over an unstable mailbox, so we'd like folks to make sure their mailboxes are stable. That is it. I wanted to conclude with, you have been provided excellent service. This crew has been doing an excellent job for years. They continue to try and get better every year. I did want to recognize a key person, primary reason for the level of service we've been getting in winter weather operations. That's Tommy sitting over here trying to hide. I cherish my relationship with him. He does a great job, really cares about the job this crew does in the winter and every day of the year. I did want to recognize Lynn Melton did do a ride-along last year and really enjoyed that. We want to open that up to the commission. Anybody that's interested and want to do a ride-along, it is enlightening. In the plow truck. Yeah, we can set that up.
Next time, hand her a shovel, too.
That concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Jeff, and I'm glad you brought your superintendents along with you. We hear a lot of flack when things are not right. But when constituents and taxpayers take time out of their day to send us notification about how great a job you're doing, that really speaks volumes. And you all are working late nights. It's dangerous work, and I just want to say hats off to you all. Keep up the great work. And I also have heard that we're in for another trying winter. Is that what you're hearing?
We're hoping not. But
okay.
Commissioner McKiernan?
I just want to echo what Commissioner Johnson said, and I will say the price of admission here was well worth it tonight. I was evidently the only one up here who didn't know shovel to the right, so thank you for that.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item relates to an agreement between the Unified Government and Max Fun Entertainment, LLC. Mr. Bach?
Thank you, Mayor. Very excited this evening to bring forward a new proposal. I think everyone is aware of the fact that we have been going through some separations with our current manager of the T-Bone Stadium. And earlier this week, we removed them from the stadium. I will say we are taking all the efforts we can, or we're moving forward with efforts from the Unified Government's perspective to collect any past due debt to the Unified Government or the BPU from that group. But for today, we're ready to move forward with the new organization that's ready to step in and play baseball in 2020. So with that, I'm going to recognize Emmerich Cross, who's going to walk through a few details of the deal, and then we'll turn to the owners group, who's going to talk about what they're looking to bring forward to our community. Mr. Cross.
Thank you, Administrator Bach. Mayor, Commissioners, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity tonight to talk about the proposed stadium management agreement between the Unified Government and Max Fun, LLC. I have a few slides I'd like to go over tonight with this PowerPoint and talk about cover the major items and deal points in the management agreement. First off, the initial term is for 5 years with 3 5-year renewal options in the agreement. As for stadium management, Max Fun buys the T-Bones membership to play at Village West Stadium, and they will also manage a new baseball team. Max Fun will also manage all stadium operations, and they will maximize our community benefit with that stadium as well. As for stadium improvements, I will skip the first item, and that will be addressed here momentarily. The stadium will offer public event space for year-round use. They're looking at a 365-day operation. potentially, and that will also hold local high school baseball games at the stadium. It will also host UG Parks and Recreation events, and also have general public community events with things like runs, concerts, and other social events at the stadium. The unified government will get 5% of all monies from non-baseball events, and that's gross revenues from those events. Also at this time, the UG plans to spend no less than $1 million from a restricted STAR bond account within 2 years on capital improvements. I would like to point out that this is a restricted account, this restricted STAR bond account, and these monies can only be used for capital improvements at the stadium. They cannot be used for anything else. As for utilities, the taxes, and the common area maintenance charges, we will split the utility cost with Max Fund for the first year of the agreement, and after that, Max Fund will be responsible for all utility costs after those 12 months. The stadium is currently tax exempt, but Max Fund will also pay property taxes on the adjacent parking lot, and they will also pay full CAM charges that are associated with the Legends. That's all common area maintenance charges. As for the letter of credit, Max Fund will obtain a letter of credit for $100,000 for utility charges after 1 year. Moving on to the ticket tax for parks improvements, Max Fund will pay 50 cents per ticket for park facilities improvements that will go to parks throughout the county. And they will also have this ticket tax capped at $20,000 for the first 2 years of the agreement, and then it will be 50 cents per baseball ticket sold after that in perpetuity. I didn't have time to get this deal was very fast-moving and very dynamic, and I didn't have time to do a economic impact for 2019 or for 2020 estimated, but for 2017, the total economic impact was estimated at $4.3 million for the Village West area. So at this time, I would like to recognize Mr. Matt Perry with Max Fund, LLC.
Thank you all for the opportunity to come before you and talk about what is really an exciting thing for us and I think for the United government as well. I don't have a slide on this, but I've got to say that I've worked with a lot of municipalities over the years, my 30-odd years in the business. And I got to say, between Doug and Emmerich and Patrick and John, I've never seen a governmental entity or the people working for them respond as quickly and work through the issues we had to work through in a pretty short period of time. So I know a lot of people, it's a lot easier to shoot arrows, but I'll send some hearts the way of your staff, who's just been great in moshing through an issue that's had a lot of moving parts and time elements attached to it. So I commend all you guys for all the assistance. It's been great. So I'll tell you a little bit about what we're about. So we open with a slide, what if? And you'll understand what the what if is when I get into it a little further. But the connotation of what we have here is, what is our plan? I mean, you've seen the elements of the deal structure, but what is about us and what are we going to do that is different? It's going to take those investments and make them work. Make them work the way we all envision them working. So I'll talk about our ownership group, our vision, some of the renovations, some of the attractions we envision, and then get into our sales and marketing and operations ideas. So we start at the top with who we are. And we're led by Mark Grandmeyer. Mark's the majority owner of Max Fun Entertainment. He's from the area, which for me, coming into this, was a key element. That I think the best way this moves forward in the right way is with someone who's from the area and understands the area. He's been a successful entrepreneur. He currently is a partner in Built, which is an interior construction firm. They do some really cool stuff. I got on their website when we first met, and I was really impressed with the things that they do. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here tonight. He obviously wanted to be here tonight, but I guess a depiction of what Mark is all about is the fact that he's in Manhattan right now. He's got a son that plays for the Manhattan Jaspers lacrosse, and he had promised him he would be up there for his upcoming game. He kept that promise because family is number one to him, and actually he's got a daughter that's on fall break that's meeting them as well. So, he apologizes for not being here, but he is very excited to be a partner in this project. So a little bit more about a couple other people involved. And again, I go back to how important it is to have people from this area that understand the area, have contacts in the area. Chad Boger is a principal and president at Union Broadcasting, which owns WHB 810. So obviously, Chad is very highly connected in the sponsorship market, in understanding sports and having sports contacts, and will be a great partner in this endeavor going forward. Myself, I live in Topeka. My wife came with me to make the short journey over here. My entire life, I've been in the sports business. I've been involved in operating minor league affiliated teams, independent league teams like the T-Bones, summer collegiate league teams. We've done professional hockey. But this project is especially endearing to me because usually when we look at a client project, I'm driving to Kansas City, getting on a plane, traveling somewhere, getting a rental car, and this is right in the backyard. And we're looking at, I hope people in Topeka don't hear this, but we're looking at selling our home in Topeka and finding a place here and setting up residence here. And again, we're going to be fully engaged and love this project and the opportunity. So the vision, what does this look like? Well, some of the things we've used to try to describe what we're going for from experience is that it's a giant outdoor tailgate atmosphere, that the ballpark is filled with groups from different walks of life. The one thing about this is, and people ask me, well, where do you go to expand your market? And I describe the pie. You take a pie and you have a little sliver that is those people that are just diehard baseball fans. And then the rest of the pie, is people that want to have entertainment, that want to have fun. And that's how we grow. And it's not just this county, but it's surrounding counties as well. And so we're going to market to a much broader area. It's coming out and having great food choices, quality food, whether it's ballpark food or a healthy line of offerings. It's a mix of something for everybody. And one of the most important things that we've been talking to the government about is the opportunity to make this a year-round event space. And our company's had a lot of experience over the years doing all sorts of events. We've done carnivals and circuses and concerts, It's just a myriad of different opportunities. But the fact that you have this location and this access, there's a world of opportunity out there for us to go after. And we're going to employ somebody within our organization that is specifically targeted towards going after new events. We want to make sure that this is affordable. We want to make sure it's welcoming to everybody. And that, again, when we talk about the pie, that's everybody. We want to enhance the technologies that are out there now. There are a lot of things that, asset-wise, the team's not utilizing to understand our consumer. Who's coming? How often do they come? When they come? What are their buying habits? That just makes us more nimble as an organization to market to those people, to communicate to those people, and that's what's happening in the industry. It's being able to reach people on their mobile phone and offer interactive communications and opportunities with them. This screen talks about ownership investment. There's a lot of conversation about, well, Mark Brandmeier coming into this, you know, what is the team bringing to the table? What is his investment in this project? And from agreeing to take over the payables to local vendors, which we thought was absolutely necessary. I mean, these are people that we want to have continued relationships with, and so that was where we started in our negotiations with the Ellards. We're taking over an operation that has not performed well as a business consistently in the last several years, and that's not always easy. And it's going to take, you know, we think a 3-year plan to get it to where it's humming the way we want it to work. And so there's going to be a substantial investment to turn around the fortunes of not only the franchise, but what's happening with the stadium. We have letters of credit that not only we're posting with the government, but also with the league. We're looking at adding to the front office to really properly market in a market area of this magnitude. You have to have more salespeople, and to get the coverage that we need, and to set up the group nights and the picnics, and to interact with the consumers. So that also is going to be a commitment and an investment that we're going to make to do this thing right. We talked previously about upgrading technology. You know, that's going to happen right out of the chute. We have transactional costs with the league, and we certainly have short-term working capital that's going to have to be invested right out of the chute. I also didn't add there, you know, the team is committing to take over all the utilities in 1 year after our first year, and that's a substantial, you know, that's again a 6-figure number. So it truly is a partnership. When we talk about stadium improvements, and this is kind of hard to read, but it's more just a graphic to show that we've been looking at where are the opportunities, and we've met with HOK and other design folks and subcontractors, and just to get a better sense of what's it going to take from an investment standpoint, not only for the improvements to the facility, but on our part to make it work. And there's a design up there of an ice rink. Well, it's up there because, you know, those are the opportunities that we're going to look at. And if we can, in the winter months, offer public skating and have youth hockey out there, try to work out a deal with the Mavericks to move one of their games over to this facility, and it's a good thing for everybody, why not? So that's why that's depicted in there. Renovation considerations, and I won't go through all these in detail, but there's some obvious ones that we've all identified in our conversations of fixing the seats that have become worn and torn. There's some items in the clubhouse that need to be repaired. There's drink rails that have gotten worn and warped, and we need to replace those. And we need to look at some of the just general landscaping. I can tell you that from again looking at the vision, we are very much on the same page about presentation, aesthetics, appearance, and just driving in. We need to get rid of some dead trees. We need to just make sure that it looks pristine when people come in. And those are things we're going to do together. And then from our standpoint, we're committed to make sure that it stays that way. It does no benefit to us to not have the facility looking shipshape. Some of the new attractions, and I've maybe mentioned a couple of these, but again, looking at the location, one thing that jumped out to us right away was just opportunity. And looking beyond just the stadium and the T-bones, looking at the location, what can we do to, again, bring people to the location for other events? And right out of the chute, we're thinking sand volleyball, pickleball, shuffleboard, bocce, and creating these opportunities to get people out there on a year-round basis. Converting some of the existing space to maybe more meeting-type space. Again, taking the holidays and making attractions out of them around Christmas, getting people to come out and maybe do public skating. Maybe we decorate the stadium in lights. There's just, we're trying to look at this with a much more creative approach to, again, how this thing works on a much larger scope. Sales and marketing, again, we're going to take your investment, our investment, and try to maximize the opportunity. There's going to be, we're going to freshen up the brand. Investments in the stadium, going to freshen up the stadium. There's going to be a new ownership with a new way of doing business. And we're certainly going to bring our 30-plus years of experience in the industry with all the different things we've seen work in other stadiums, in other markets. We want to, again, have the data. And I look at sporting. Sporting has done such a wonderful job of knowing their consumer. And they built the infrastructure right to do that. And they've set the bar. So there's an expectation out there that people have. When I go to a sporting event, they know me. They know what I like. They know what kind of experience I'm expecting. Well, guess what? We're going to have to try to do all we can to mirror that experience. And so that'll be an important part of what we're doing. We want to create social spaces for people to just come and hang out, because it's an evolution in our sport. It used to be that you'd build the biggest stadium possible and just try to fill it. Now, the seating capacity is much smaller, and you have all these social spaces where people would just want to come out and hang out. And baseball is going on in the background. And I'm a baseball guy, but I get it. It's about the experience, the entertainment. And so we're going to be very focused on creating that atmosphere that people just, you know what, let's just go hang out at the ballpark. And we can talk, and it's social, and it's not too loud, and it's just a perfect setting for that. I'd mentioned previously we want to expand the current market region. There's a great opportunity to reach out to Leavenworth and Lawrence and not only have the focus on just Wyandotte County businesses, but Johnson County and get involved with their little leagues, get involved with their chambers of commerce. Set up the group nights with businesses that are based in those communities, because the more people we can get here, the more they're spending money while they're here. And if someone comes from Leavenworth and maybe they don't even eat the ballpark, but they eat here on site in the village area, and they gas up here before they leave, great. Everyone's benefiting. We want to partner and get to know all the other vendors that are out here, because there's going to be events that we want to coordinate with them and schedule properly so that we're not going on top of each other. And just looking at what's been done in the past, I think that's been a real missed opportunity. And to me, I kind of look at that as low-hanging fruit. Why not? It just makes good business sense. And again, we talked about driving events on a year-round basis. That's a big part of what we're going to do and why we're doing this. Talking about the operations, I go back to the pristine, clean feel when you walk out to the ballpark. And, you know, I look at probably 45% of our attendees are women. And there's a lot more women that run their own businesses, and women make a lot of the decisions of what the family's going to do for entertainment. But, you know, women don't like to go, you know, they don't want to take their family out and be in a place that doesn't feel clean. And guys generally don't either, but we're a lot more brutish about stuff like that. I mean, I've seen some of the old bathrooms in some of the old NFL stadiums. They're scary. But another thing that we're going to be big on is training all of our people on the touch points of when they meet with our customers, when they see our customers. And that's not just us, but if we end up having a third-party food and beverage operator, they've got to be trained in the same way, because they're just as important in that interaction as our people are that are taking tickets or security. It's all got to be intertwined. We want to, on the field, both Mark and I talked to Joe, our manager, in the last 24 hours. He's been great. I mean, obviously, the team won a championship in 2018. They've been competitive every year he's been here. He's still under contract, but we want to tie him up for well into the future, because the guy understands how to put competitive teams on the field. And I would venture to guess that he has had more players in the last 3 years sign contracts with major league organizations than any other coach in our league. And, you know, I'll stand corrected if someone proves me different, but I know it's just extensive how he's been able to bring good kids in and develop them. And then lastly, we want to work closely, shoulder to shoulder with the UG on taking this project forward. Regular communication, clear understanding, well thought out plans. It's just, it's part of the history I have in other projects. And knock on wood, we've tended to have great relationships with our landlord, and this truly will be a partnership from the standpoint that you're investing in the facility, we're investing in the team, we're going to look at investing around the facility, and we have to be working together to make sure those investments pay off. So this is my last slide, so I know I've been taking a little time here, but the what if. What if we could all be proud to bring family, friends, associates, and constituents to the ballpark? And I know for the first X number of years, everyone had that feeling. It was humming. It was great. But it hasn't been that way for quite a while. We want to get back to that. What if the stadium was a place kids begged parents to go? And Doug and I were talking about that, how that used to be the case. I mean, it was the place to go and be, and we've got to get back to that. What if being a T-Bones fan is cool again? Well, that's a good litmus test for it. If in a couple of years people have that thought, then we're doing this right. The other thing is, what if the stadium became a regional attraction for year-round sports and entertainment? I think that's the ultimate play here. And we're going to strive to make that happen. Tremendous opportunity. And I close with, let's make it happen together. So I'm open for questions.
Thank you, sir. We have one more item that Mr. Bach needs to bring forward.
Sure. Thank you again very much.
Thank you. And we will be taking questions in a few moments.
Great.
Thank you, Matt. As Emmerich and Matt both alluded to, this is a project that's been moving along quite quickly for us. Pretty dynamic as we put things together. The date of today was one that was put out there from the American Association in order to maintain our place to play baseball in 2020. And we felt like that was an important part of this because we, as the Village West area, is a very dynamic portion of our community. It provides a lot of tax dollars, not only to unified government, but to our school districts and community college. Keeping that as a vibrant place was important, so we moved it right along. However, it's right up to today, we were still having some discussion. So as Matt put up there on the slide, Harry's investing close to $1.7 million. Additionally, in the agreement, we have the clauses in there where we talk about the $1 million that the unified government's investing, and then also the $500,000 additional that's coming in from Max Fund. I do want to make one amendment that I'm going to recommend that this be put forward onto it, and that's really so it pertains to the sections 13.3 and 13.4, which pertains to the owner's investment of the $1 million and the manager's guarantee to the $500,000. That we move that over to a conditional item, whereas we will work through the details of these areas over the next 12 months. So we wanted to we felt like it's important to know more specifically what we're going to do with that, so it doesn't have it as a straight obligation right now, but it gives us that opportunity. We both intend to do it, but we want to work through that and put it in a conditional portion on both sides of it as to how we would do this. This will be conditional language, and completed will be presented back to the commission. And this will enable the teams to advance to the league for the 2020 season and get their approvals done, and we'll be playing baseball out there. It'll just give us some time, and we'll probably get this done in the next couple of months. But it's one of those things we just wanted to give ourselves a little bit of latitude. So I'd ask for that amendment to be added to it as well. With that, Mayor, we would stand for any questions that you may have.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the commission? Commissioner Murguia.
Thank you, Mayor. Matt, I just want to tell you and Emmerich both, you did a fantastic job with your presentation. Super exciting. I hope all the things that you talked about happen. I'm thrilled that you all have stepped up and wanted to take over the T-Bones. It was a huge attraction, and I would like to see it return that way. Very, very exciting. I do have a very short prepared statement that I'd like to read. I think the deal in front of us tonight is a great deal based on our current circumstance, and that the unified government a few years ago made the choice to purchase a stadium. Not necessarily a choice that I would have wanted to make, but nonetheless, we own a stadium. So tonight, I do think this is an incredible deal. However, I am disappointed that once our government realized that the current owners were in trouble financially and trying to sell the team, I believe our government should have put out an RFP to see if any other team or developer would offer a better deal. That was not done, despite my request, so I am left to vote on only two options tonight. One, no, and letting a stadium go dark, in the middle of one of the most vibrant areas of Wyandotte County, or two, the deal before us. Not really great options. I think there could have been more options had our government been more proactive in marketing this stadium through the normal RFP process once we were alerted to the current owner's financial situation. So tonight, Matt, I want you to hear this. I am not voting no on your proposal. I am voting no on the process. I just believe to broaden our tax base, to provide our entire county with tax relief, and to provide amenities all over our county, we need to dream bigger as a government, and we need to be more proactive when these kinds of situations take place. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Walters.
Thank you. Matt, thanks for your presentation. I don't necessarily disagree with a lot of what Commissioner Murguia said, but I do see it from a little different perspective, and that is we are where we are, and I am thrilled that your organization has stepped forward to invest in our community. And you know, we do owe a bit to our former owner. We had issues with them, obviously, but they did bring professional baseball to Wyandotte County. We wouldn't have it without them. And they established a bit of a tradition, which you referenced. And from the short amount of time I've spent with you and your organization, it seems to me that you are interested and prepared and qualified to take that tradition to a higher level. And I'm very grateful that you have stepped forward. I appreciate your desire to be partners with the unified government, and everything I've seen so far is very positive. I think it has turned out well for us. It might have turned out differently if we'd taken a different course, but I'm very happy with the way it is now. And with that, I would move for approval of this resolution as amended.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner. We have a motion and a second, but I would like to have an opportunity for public comment. So,
Mr. Mayor,
yes, Commissioner.
I also have a few questions that I wanted to put forward about the specifics of the agreement as it was submitted. Is that okay?
Yes.
Mr. Perry? Mr.
Yes,
Perry,
ma'am.
I wanted to say that I regret that I wasn't able to be in the chamber in person tonight, but due to health reasons on my end and out of consideration for everyone else's health in there, I am at home, but I very much wanted to be there. And these questions may be more suitable for council. So Mr. Bach or anyone else who can field them from that perspective, that's great. But again, thank you, Mr. Perry, for Mac's son's interest. And I think Commissioner Walters was more than correct in saying that even though things didn't end in the best way for the predecessors, appreciate what they've done so far with the T-bombs. Here are the questions I had, and it had basically to do with arrangement with the activities on Exhibit 1 and some of the others that you referred to, Mr. Perry, that might come about. So when we talk about a sports bar and pickleball courts and sandlot volleyball, here are a couple of the questions that I had specifically with regard to any items or improvements that might come other than our primary activity out there, which is baseball. So first of all, with any of those situations, what in this contract, and again, I welcome council's input on this, what in the contract gives the UG the right to approve or reject any third-party vendors that may come in? And I'm going to use an extreme example so you can see what I mean. Let's say that there's a sports bar, restaurant that you want to bring in, third-party operator. what if the Bunny Ranch, and adults may know what that is, the Bunny Ranch wants to come in and do Bunny's burgers and beers. That is not a particularly family-friendly entity. What would be UG's recourse or involvement with approving that, or anybody else's coming in and running, say, the restaurant?
Commissioner Townsend, this is Patrick Waters, Legal Department.
Thank you, Counselor.
The agreement provides that those types of changes are subject to final approval by the unified government at our complete discretion. So in that type of situation, we would have the right to say no.
Okay. Do you recall which particular article that's in? I did read the agreement, so I wasn't clear on it. So
Sure. That is 13.4.
That. Okay. I'm going to trust you that we have the right. That was my primary concern for that or anything else. Do we, the UG, have the right to comment, approve, or reject size, location, dimensions, et cetera, for any of the particular improvements that may be done? For instance, the size of the volleyball court or the pickleball court or the restaurant. What does the UG have in the way of protecting itself for input?
Sure, Commissioner. It's the same language. That would have to go through us and get final approval. And there may also be some planning and zoning approvals that they would have to go through depending on, what type of use it is. So it would definitely get run by this commission.
Okay, but it's not just for approval or rejection.
Correct.
Okay. And I note that Mr. Cross made mention of a 5% gross receipt on something. My question goes to what in the contract currently makes mention of any proceeds, rents that the UG would get from these new improvement activities?
Commissioner, that would fall under the 5%. So that any activities that would occur with these new developments, the unified government would get 5%.
And where is that in the contract? Which article is that?
Testing me here.
Is it 5.2, Patrick?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Thank you. 5.2.
It's 5.2. Okay. Okay. I saw when there was ancillary events. I didn't know if that included or was meant to include those activities or anything like them on Exhibit 1. So that's 5% that we get of those new ventures. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you very much. Those were some of my questions that really had to do with the improved activity. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I have no further questions.
I'm sorry?
I have no further questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bynum?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few questions. I think I heard you mention right before our commission questions and comments started that you were going to allow public comment. Okay, because one of the questions I had tonight was we had received a couple of emails from constituents asking us to hold a public hearing, and I was going to ask for clarification within our government structure as to what triggers a public hearing and what does not. So I still may appreciate hearing that. However, I appreciate that you're going to allow the public to come forward and comment on that. So that question can maybe hold off. I was also curious about the 5% portion of the agreement, and I was just wondering if maybe there are a couple of examples of what kind of activity might go on out there that would generate revenue, of which the unified government would receive 5%. What kind of other events might be occurring out there where revenue would be produced? Is that what the 5% is referring to? Okay, so what would that be?
Yeah, I'm glad to answer that. So it could be a concert, it could be a festival.
Okay.
It could be a tournament. Really, anything we're doing. If we did the ice facility that we talked about and had public skating, that would be generating income from people renting skates and paying a fee to participate on the ice.
So would that include, not to get too deep into the weeds, but if there were a high school or college baseball tournament held there and the food service company was present and selling their items during a tournament period, is that part of what would be included in a 5%?
If it's anything we're scheduling.
Okay.
And promoting a ticketed event or generating revenue, yes.
I'm curious, go ahead.
I just clarify, Patrick, is that, we have non-baseball events? And I don't know how those fall into the non-baseball. I mean,
Maybe
of course, the
that's-
difference is we get a portion of the ticket tax if it's a baseball
Right,
event.
right.
And I think a tournament may fall into that
So maybe that's not a
category.
good example.
But it's a fine line between the two,
Okay.
to clarify.
Just looking through it, the 5% does refer to what's called ancillary events, non-baseball. So,
Non-baseball.
even though it's not connected to the actual team, I think it could be argued, I mean, it's a baseball game, so probably not included for
Okay.
school games.
But then if they sold the tickets, so it's either one or the other.
Mhm.
Either the ticket tax is going to apply or the 5%.
Okay, thanks. And then, you know, along with a lot of my fellow commissioners, I did very much appreciate having T-Bones baseball here in Kansas City, Kansas. We've had that for 15 years. And one of the things about it that I think was so attractive is that it was affordable. And so I'd like you to address whether you intend to keep what's offered out there, independent league baseball, affordable for the families in the way that it's been for us for the past 15 years.
I kind of tangentially mentioned that in one of the slides, but I'll elaborate a little bit more.
Sure.
In that, when we stratify the ticketing in these types of situations, we may have a premium type ticket and a premium service, and that could be at the suite level, and it could be a much more expensive ticket, and it could include food. But at the same time, we're going to have general admission ticket prices, lower ticket prices that are aimed at allowing a family to come in inexpensively. And from time to time, we'll have specials that we do too on food, tickets, and again, special promotions that are aimed at an affordable offering, again, so that what we're doing is available to everybody. And so that's a key element of our pricing structure and needing to maintain that affordable aspect, because it's also one of the things in this market that can make us stand out is maintaining that affordable experience.
Right, thank you, that's great. Some of the wonderful experiences available to us in Kansas City are not very affordable, so I do appreciate hearing that. And I have a couple just technical questions, Mr. Bach. I know that when things are sold out there, sales tax is collected, and so that would still be true, and that sales tax would be separate from and in addition to this 5% revenue sharing situation, correct? What I'm looking for are ways that revenue comes back to the unified government from having the agreement with the new team owner that benefits the entire Wyandotte County community. That's what I'm driving at.
Yeah, that is correct. That is, it was a little bit of reference. Emmerich talked a little bit about other revenues that come in, but a very direct source of revenue is any sales tax that comes into it. I will also note that within this agreement, and I don't think it was mentioned this evening, but it's, there's a provision in there that requires them to have all their visiting teams stay in a Kansas City, Kansas hotel.
Okay.
So when they come and stay here over the time, not only do we get the sales tax, but we also get the additional room tax that comes from that. So those are direct tax revenues that come in that help businesses come to it. And then you have the indirect that he referenced when you have people staying in it that go out there that may go to a restaurant or such like that. You have team all the way from the salaries that are paid for the players, the people that work out there. So that's a state revenue source that comes in from that standpoint. But then there's a medical crossover, which actually is quite large that they have an association, which T-Bone's had. I assume these guys will be the same, which we see a revenue source coming from that. So there's several different areas in addition to any indirect from the crowds that come in.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. All right, I see no more comments or questions from commissioners. I will open it up. If you would like to speak, please come forward, state your name and city of residency, and you will have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Sheila Jackson. I live at 2515 Haskell, 66104. I'm here because I'm not understanding why we're giving them $1 million to come in when we had a contract with the T-Bones and they didn't even pay theirs. And why aren't you taking part of that $1 million and paying the T-Bones light bill and using the rest for the company to come in? I also want to know, will the T-Bones be allowed to play in the stadium, considering they owe a bill? Because I'm pretty sure you had an agreement with the T-Bones also, and you didn't follow up with them. So how do we know, the people, that you're going to still follow up with them? Because it's leaving us paying the bill, fronting the T-Bones, fronting anything else that comes in, okay? And also, I heard that he is affiliated with a contractor. Is he gonna be the one that get the contract to do the improvements in the building around, on the facility? I mean, because that wouldn't be fair also, considering we have contractors here that should be able to be the ones that get that contract, not the person that's buying or renting and then I still don't understand, why are we giving them a tax credit?
You have 1 minute.
For the lights. That's still the taxpayer paying for that. That's not the team that's coming in or anything else. And thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else like to speak? Please come forward.
Hello, my name is Mary Geralt. I'm a resident of Kansas City, Kansas, and I have a comment that I just would like to share from my own perspective. The previous owners of the T-Bone Stadium owe the UG the better part of $250,000 for unpaid BPU and other charges, yet the UG is willing to issue $1 million in new star bond funds to the new owner. Where does that leave us taxpayers? If we are funding the capital improvements to the stadium, what does the new owner pay? I know we covered some of that this evening. Even if you recover the unpaid debt of the previous owner and the new owner faithfully pays all the utilities and property taxes, we, the people, will still be more in debt than where we were when we started. If the new owner can't afford to make capital improvements, how will he afford to pay the subsequent bills on those improvements? We're starting the cycle all over again. Instead of taking the proposed 5% of revenues from non-baseball functions held at the stadium and the 50-cent per ticket tax as proposed, how about just not paying for the capital improvements up front? Shouldn't a new owner be required to show they have the means to fund their own capital improvements before purchasing a public property? I don't understand why we continue to stick taxpayers with a bill for bad decisions. Thank you very much.
Cecilia Bank, Kansas City, Kansas. So, I'm happy that we are getting, or is selling. However,
Ms.
I'm
Bank,
sorry.
you might want to pull your microphone.
I said I'm happy that you guys are trying to get a deal going on out there, but I have an issue when they get a break with their BPU bills and we don't. We never get a break with our bills. If we miss a bill by 10 cents, they will cut it off and then charge us $16 to reconnect it. But these people get help with their bills for a whole year and then get a credit for $100,000 when the residents who compensate for their bills don't get a break at all. So that's where my issue with that is. And I also have an issue with the $1 million start bond. I really do. I feel like these companies are already going to get a deal by coming here and making our money. We shouldn't have to do all of these startups. Every business that comes here that is not a small business, we give them startups. Meanwhile, the small businesses are suffering. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Alan Carr. I currently live in Kansas City, Missouri, but I will be shortly relocating to Kansas City, Kansas. I am the new director, executive director for the Kansas City, Kansas Convention and Visitors Bureau. So I have only been on the job for 2 weeks now, but I felt like it was important to come here tonight to talk about tourism and the importance of Village West Stadium and the T-Bones to tourism in the unified government. One of the things that had attracted me to this job was the investment that you all have made in tourism in Wyandotte County as a source of economic development. Over the last 20 years, Village West has become a major tourism attraction and a major destination that has created a number of jobs for local residents here in Wyandotte County and Kansas City, Kansas. It also has drawn huge numbers of visitors to the county, and those visitors are spending money, which helps bring new taxes into the community. And I think one thing that's important about tourism is those dollars we're getting from those visitors are new dollars, or dollars we wouldn't get otherwise. They're dollars that local residents don't have to pay, but those visitors are helping pay some of those taxes. I think it's important to consider tourism and consider how this impacts keeping tourism vibrant in Village West. Village West, as a major destination, it's important that we keep this facility, this very visible facility, vibrant, that we maintain it, and that we find new and innovative ways to expand the opportunity for visitors out there. I was excited to hear tonight how they're looking to create more opportunities year-round for this facility. I think it's also important to understand that at the CVB, Village West Stadium is a really important tool for us to sell Kansas City, Kansas for events. One great example, just this past August, we hosted the National Wheelchair Softball World Series, and Village West
You have
Stadium
1 minute,
was
sir.
one of the facilities that event used. That event brought more than 20 teams to town from all over the country, one coming all the way from Japan. That event, it's generated 700 room nights and approximately $700,000 in economic impact. That's just one event, and our sales team has identified more than a dozen of these types of events that we believe that we can bring to Village West Stadium. But we need the stadium to be open, and we need it to be vibrant, and so I would thank you for considering tourism as part of your decision.
Thank you, sir. All right.
Thank you, Mayor. So to answer a couple of the questions that came forward, one, I will note that the power bill has been completely paid since July of 2017. All the utilities billing to the BPU has been paid in full, so that's not outstanding. There was prior due bills that were out there, and those will be ones that we will be trying to get, but that's all prior to July of 2017. The $1 million that was referenced in this deal, that is earlier issued STAR bonds, so it was issued in relation to the entire Village West district. As we went through that project, there were various areas where there were some savings that were made, and as you recall, the STAR bond sales tax dollars are all dollars that are generated within that project area, not from outside, so all the money from a STAR dollar had to be generated from within the Village West area, and about 70% plus of all those dollars come from people outside of Wyandotte County. It also has 2/3 of the money comes from state sales tax portion, so it was a great ability for us to leverage outside dollars to come into it when you look at the structure of a star bond. So we had project savings out in that area, and we met with the state about what we could do moving, because the original stadium was built by the Ellerts. They reached a point where they wanted to sell it, so in 2013, we approved action by the commission to go forward and buy the stadium utilizing star bonds. We issued we did $5.5 million toward the purchase, and then there were a couple $1 million towards stadium improvements. This was not an additional issuance. It was from the savings that was already, or the savings from project work that was already out there. We started to spend some of the money on the stadium at the time. But before spending this additional $1 million in the deal, the manager at the time was not fulfilling the obligations that we had with them, so we stopped doing that. So it is money that is held in a reserve account that can only be expended for capital improvements, and that's how the state issue goes with the state. I cannot spend that money toward operating expenses, which would include a back paying of any other utility bill or paying somebody's salary or something like that. It has to go toward a capital improvement expense by the way they're designed. So we've held those in that account till we have a partner that's ready to go forward and invest with us. That's why I detailed out the one thing and why we're going to work on that clause in our agreement about how both of us will spend that money over the next 12 months and make that much more clear. There was also a reference given to a credit. That's not a credit. What that is, we said the owner or the manager has to buy a letter of credit. That means they'll put $100,000 in a letter of credit, and if they miss paying their bill for a month, and let's say they come up $5,000 short, we then can go to that letter of credit and draw down that $5,000 and make that payment. So that's actually an obligation on them, not on us, and it assures that we won't have this same issue come back to us in the future if they run behind in their billing. So that's a pro thing for the unified government. I believe I've answered most of the questions there. I will add to it, though, in addition to some of the comments made by the CVB, also have had a meeting with the Kansas City Sports Commission, who expressed their interest in this stadium and how it's a marketing tool they want to continue to use in going out and trying to get events and adding additional events coming into the Kansas City area. The potential we have to go after college games or other such venues to bring into the area. So I found that very exciting, and I know that's someone we'll be introducing Matt and Mark to and working with them as we go forward.
All right, thank you. We have one more person.
My name is Doug Rising. I'm from Overland Park. You got that set. All right, let me see if I can stand up here.
Emmerich, there's
Does this
a
thing work?
microphone right there.
Does this work? All right, I'll stand up. Hold on just a second. I can stand up. Test. Appreciate that, Emmerich. Thank you. My name is Doug Rising. I'm from Overland Park, Kansas, and the purpose I came here actually was to see who was going to be here from the Max Fund group. And the reason I wanted to do that is because when I saw the T-Bones facility might be available, I had some ideas. I've got a patent pending concept that we have developed that I thought might be a good fit for there. But I think that the issue that you had, ma'am, about not having an RFP out available to other people, I think you can marry the best of both worlds if Max Fund and some other people are amenable to having people come in and possibly sublease part of that campus. That's a very large campus out there, and my vision for that area is to be an entertainment complex year-round, similar to what Max mentioned. So I just wanted to comment that if Max Fund and that organization and the unified government is open to having people come in and have a year-round lease of some of space or maybe a 5%, I guess anybody that comes there gets the 5% regardless, that there's a chance that it's a win-win for everybody, because we have a product that it's a top golf type of concept, but it's not golf related. It's year-round. There's no bunny ranches associated. It would be family friendly. It'd be family friendly. And that concept may or may not work for your group, or it may not work for the Max Fund group, but I think that our ideas and people like myself who have other ideas that you could possibly marry that all together and have a really make that not just a baseball stadium, and maybe have some high school teams come in once in a while, and maybe a wheelchair tournament once in a while, but really a year-round revenue generator, tax money, food, beverage, that they could mutually beneficial to all the parties involved. So that is my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We do have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Mugia.
No.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
The vote is 9-1. That motion carries.
Thank you very much. That takes us to our next item, which is the administrator's annual update.
Thank you, Mayor. I can't believe the media is packing up and leaving before I give my report. Somebody run the control switch, please. Okay, so this is my report coming in. Cumulative to it, I have tried to shorten what's actually, so we have the goals and values that it's tied to. Every section is tied under the 6 areas that we have. I do have a new area under infrastructure at this point. We will have to restructure for that in the future. Walking through that we have in place, I have $381,000 were spent in community development funds on Park Drive, Reagan Field, and along Ridge Drive. And I will note, as I'm going through this, there's a complete full report that was issued out. And this, I'm not going to give all of that tonight because that's great detail. A little over 1,000 vacant lots change ownership through the tax sale process. And now they're even being developed or maintained, no longer considered blighted properties to work in this area. We created the city's Adopt a Spot program. We also, under the land bank, had 62 contractors added with 25 home renovations started, 16 home renovations also been completed. And as the chart says, this has reduced the number from 33 to 2 that were out there. We actually now are down to 0 on that are available that we have through that program, which I'm pretty excited about because it was quite a risk when we went into acquiring homes. The old vacant Whitaker Elementary has been transferred from the land bank to a developer for a new project. We created a pre-approved housing plans to remove barriers in building new homes, and also refocus strategies to identify and stop individuals from illegal dumping. During 2019, community policing officers apprehended 9 offenders, and I know this seems like a small number, but that's a very difficult area for us to capture somebody in and actually move them through the prosecution area. So with the assistance of our neighbors, we're doing that, and we've also had 40 neighborhood cleanup events. Let's skip ahead a page or two, but in demolition, there were 61 structures demolished, 59 residential, 2 commercial, but to that point, we had 35 structures currently on the dangerous buildings list. A year ago, we had 95. So due to the commission funding in this regard, we've made major movements to move us along in this area. So through the report, you can see this, and I'll just highlight this here, and I won't do it on each section of it, but when you're going through the report, you can do a click Right there is you have it electronically, and that can take you to the full 80-page report to go through this in more detail. So everything's by section, or you can do it by the entire report to make it easy for you all to go through. Next section on increasing safety and the perception of safety. We provided 87 customers with Lifeline through the Department of Aging and Community Corrections. 736 district court offenders have been supervised since January of 19, which has actually saved over 42,000 jail bed days. And in the adult side, we have 299 offenders from either KCK Municipal, Edwardsville, Bonner Springs, or Wyandotte County, which has saved over 28,000 jail beds. You know, we've hit this as a success rate of 98%. In the dispatch center, we had the major undertaking for doing the phase 1 improvements in the 911 center, which included moving the dispatchers out temporarily and then bringing them back in, and then we'll be doing another phase 2 schedule in spring of 2020. On the Quintero town site, we received grant funding to complete phase 1 environmental assessment. Under emergency management, it seems like it's been a few months ago, and it has, but we continually monitored all the river flooding throughout the spring. Where we were, we submitted damages for reimbursement to FEMA, and hopefully we'll see a fair amount of reimbursement for a lot of things that happen in regard to that. Our geospatial services developed the field application that is being used by the Sheriff's Department for offender address verification, and in the Health Department conducted 3 different car seat check lanes. Fire Department rescued and resuscitated 16 residents from either fires, entrapments, or medical emergencies. We successfully improved the ISO rating from a 3 to a 2, which should affect anybody's insurance rating that goes ahead and points that out to their insurance company. And we created mutual aid agreements with several of our surrounding jurisdictions to help increase fire coverage and response. In the legal department, they developed new training for the sheriff's deputies, building and security officers, and then we also collaborated with municipal court parking enforcement to develop a new procedure for our boot program for some of our offenders that must have had their car full of parking tickets based on the numbers that were in them, and had some very significant hits on that initially, and has changed that just by doing a few. Under the police department, violent crime decreased by 3.5%, property crime decreased by 19.8%, and target crime decreased by 17.2%. We worked with the Marshal Service for Operation Lateral Storm, which resulted in 219 arrests. And our Summer Cadets program had a successful second season. We currently have 2 of those individuals that are in the process of being hired on by our own department. And then 2 of those others that went through it, that were introduced to some community partners that are in the job process of being hired by them. And then again, you can go through the full report. Increasing community health. Under the Area Agency of Aging, we implemented a new enhanced fitness site in the Bonner Springs Senior Center. We implemented a small pilot program called CHAMPS for seniors. It's geared toward more independent living mobiles and how they can have food for that service. Youth Services partnered with community-based nonprofit, the Village Initiative, to put together a pilot program where selected youth were paired with reformed adult offenders to hear the adult story and their lessons learned. With the Health Department, the No Lead, No KC program continued to move forward with 47 eligible requests for assistance for lead remediation. And under delinquent tax, abstracting of vacant and problem structures to be placed in tax sale moved 31 structures into the land bank for rehab. Under the area of economic development, we had groundbreaking for the Merck in August. The University of Kansas opened their Strawberry Hill campus downtown. Health Department, the adult smoking rate for Wyandotte County is at 21.8%. That's a drop from 25.4% in 2013. So we've seen some reduction in that area through the efforts of our department. Edwardsville City Council also passed the Tobacco 21. We assisted them in going through that and providing testimony. In our community health improvements, we increased the capacity for 300 additional children to receive licensed child care, which we do have a deficit in our community for that, so that was a major effort by the health department. And for the first time in 5 years, we had swim lessons offered out at Parkwood Pool. The Quiet Zone draft agreement with Edwardsville was completed and approved, and we removed 8,538 cubic yards of debris from the roadway with our street sweepers, which was a 43% increase over what we did in 2018. Yes, that is a lot. More efficient plan. Yeah, it's a lot of trash too. This slide just goes over various constructions we've had in different areas, including the Safe Routes to Schools projects completed for West Middle, William Allen White, and Noble Prentice schools. Under the area of economic prosperity for all citizens, we implemented a campaign to increase the awareness of raising the decreasing donation trend affecting Meals on Wheels program for the Area Agency on Aging. Under the Appraiser's Office Commercial Division, we met statistical compliance requirements, complete statistical requirements for the first time since 2004, which was quite an achievement. Building permits, we've noted that that's a downward trend from 2,444 issued in 18 down for 1,173 this year. And in the Community Development Department, our CHIP down payment assistance program, we've assisted 14 applicants for down payments assistance worth $209,000. But more importantly to that leveraged over $1.5 million in mortgage loans and private funds. 2 residential projects move forward downtown, the Boulevard Lofts, and then we're still in the works on the YMCA Lofts. Turner Logistics project moved forward out at Turner Diagonal area for a $125 million deal on the land, which also involves the whole new interchange. Under the Finance Department, completed several general obligation tax exempt bonds in 2019, including a $20.3 million improvement bond, $8.9 million for refunding, and then 2 temp notes. Treasurer's Division had a bank tour with various banks to go through and tour the city and see where they could do additional investment with those institutions. And not to be left behind, we completed the 2020 budget, which is always a major task to go through at time. The legal department helped acquire land for the Bruni Elementary Road redesign project as we move forward with that. Municipal Court adopted a policy change to allow citizens to request continuance on traffic court cases without an attorney. And with the adoption of the Pay It program, citizens are now allowed for the first time to make partial payments toward court payments without actually having to come into the court. Year-to-date, 693 new businesses filed occupation taxes, which is slightly down from last year. 721 permits were a value of $165 million were issued in 2019. That's a few less permits than last year, however, it's more value. And then 73 single home permits were issued in 2019 versus 132 in 2018. Planning Department began citizen engagement on the Central Avenue project, and our annual resurfacing projects were carried over from 2018. They were finished, and now we got way on the 2019 project. Work has been begun. A lot of that work will be carried over into 2020. We began operation of the 18th Street Transit Route. This is the first new transit route line in the UG in over 10 years. And we welcomed Donnelly College into our University Pass program, which we're glad to do. Under customer service and communication, we increased voter registration with 6,746 new voters. Successfully completed the 2018 audit with no findings, big achievement there. Submitted an application for accreditation for the Public Health Department, and the Board of Health convened for the first time in many years, and they've met again since that time, which is you all. Continuing on the health department, the WIC partnered with Southwest Boulevard Family Clinic to provide dental fluoride treatments to over 150 children. We developed an online satisfaction survey for family members, guardians, and clients to give feedback regarding our services in the health department. Under the knowledge department, they connected the NRC, fleet, aging, and annex with our UG private fiber network. UG attorneys have assisted with approximately 2,088 CORA requests to date in 2019. Too bad our media friends didn't stick around to hear that, but if you look at where we're spending additional time, that's what the UG attorneys did. There's a whole lot of other departments get hit with that too. Began notifying neighbors of impending demolitions by placing a SOAR demolition sign in those yards so they would know what areas we were getting ready to take action on. Under Public Works, in January through September, the street division used 1,701 tons of asphalt to patch potholes. Again, this is a 36% increase over the amount of asphalt we put out in 2018. And we created and deployed a digital form for customers to request block party permits via the website. Under Public Relations, we produced over 50 UG TV and website videos, which featured the mayor and commissioners, Neighborhoods Up, and Merck Groundbreaking. And we launched live stream and UG TV broadcast for UG planning commissions this year. Under Community Cohesion, under SOAR, they attended 10 community engagement events with information and resources. The election office conducted special elections for Turner USD 202. The museum did several different things they moved into, but they've engaged 879 community members through the museum visitation and outreach events. Parks and Recreation partnered with Kaboom and the Carmax Foundation for Pammy's Playground at Bell Clem Park, which was quite a project done in one day. Buildings and Logistics assisted with 54 special events. It's not our routine ones. Those are usually things that weren't pre-planned in any way. And then they also assisted at 84 different events over at Memorial Hall. So we're seeing a lot more activity at that facility. And we held 13 stormwater rate meetings. So again, you can go see the full, that's the whole report there. So if you want to go see the full report, it's under one tab, and you can go through individual sections and break it out and get a lot more detail on most all the points that I put out in that report. Well, it was all issued to you, but it will be placed on the website.
Commissioner Markley?
So in this report, you noted that there's been a downtick in permits for various types of projects. I would be curious to know if that is happening in other jurisdictions or if it's just here. So that's just something maybe for staff to look into. I mean, if other communities are seeing an increase and we're seeing a decrease, we need to figure out why that is. If everybody's seeing a decrease, then it's probably more of a market-driven issue. So
From what I understand, it's actually a decrease everywhere, but I'm not everywhere, but metro-wide.
It is, but we can verify that, but that's been more anecdotal information that we've got on that, so I haven't pulled all that data to see that.
Commissioner Bynum?
Well, thank you. I appreciate that we can have it posted on the website because I'm actually sincerely sorry that the media left, as well as most of the other viewing public, because there's always a lot of really good information in your report, and to me it shows how much is actually going on and how much our staff is doing and how much is happening across the community, and that's why I had asked if it was accessible on the website, and just to say thank you, because I do think you've got a great team and we've got a great set of employees doing pretty incredible work. So, thank you.
I appreciate that, Commissioner. And just to note that, what you see in the report, one, it's taken down by the departments because they go through and just highlight key points that they want to point out. And then I get it, and I will cut it back and cut back numbers of things that come in, or the assistants do. We go through and we cut that back to say, okay, let's get it down to a little more manageable document. And then, of course, what I give tonight is just a small percentage of what's in it.
All right, thank you. That concludes the portion of our regular meeting. We are adjourned in that capacity. Now call us back to order as the Land Bank Board of Trustees. Does any member of the commission or anyone in attendance tonight wish to set aside any item on the Land Bank consent agenda?
Move to approve all as submitted.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Mugia. Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
Thank you. That concludes our meeting for the evening.